What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show powered by BetUS. Today, the Blazers played a basketball game in Sacramento and won a preseason game versus an NBA team for the first time in a long time. This actually would have been Chauncey Billups' first preseason win over an NBA team in his entire head coaching tenure, but he was not here tonight as he got inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame. Instead, it was Nate I can't even say his last name. Bjorkgren. I completely butchered that. But the Blazers didn't butcher this game. The Blazers played some phenomenal basketball after a slow start. The Kings incredibly sloppy. The Blazers win by 20, 105-85, playing some stifling defense at times. You had some good performances in this game. This was a much better game than Friday night's game against the Clippers, and I'm going to break it all down here with Eric. If you missed this game because you couldn't find it on TV and couldn't find a link to watch the Jumbotron feed, then we're going to break down everything that happened in this game. We're going to give our thoughts on what the Blazers did. We're going to give our thoughts on every single player that mattered tonight. Eric, how's it going, man? What's going on?
Well, first of all, we might want to turn off Nightbot. It's a little messed up. It keeps putting people in timeout for no reason.
Something I'm experimenting tonight, but I will take care of that. All right, I'll disable that. All right, what else,
Sorry,
man?
Umar,
No, yeah. I didn't even notice. So we're trying out a new chat bot, and I guess it hates some of you guys. So. We'll fix that right away.
You can't put anything in all caps or it automatically,
Yeah.
times the odd or something. Anyways, game, little bit of a rough start by both teams, but Portland really turned it on. Ended up forcing 27 turnovers in this game, which is a ton. Really, we can nitpick, some things like the offense was still very they ran the pick and roll weave or the three-man weave up top a bunch of times. I guess that's going to be their offense again. But other than that, the only real bad negative from this game, in my opinion, was the amount of transition baskets they continued to give up. 21 in the first half. I didn't see the final number, but it was up over 30 at one point. Just a basic concept in basketball, just to get back on defense, and Portland still is struggling to do that. But other than that, just a lot more enjoyable game than the first preseason game.
Oh, absolutely. There's kind of two ways that we're breaking down the team this season. One is the style of play. Are they accomplishing what they're trying to emphasize? Are they running the floor? That's been a point of emphasis. Are they, moving the ball well? And throughout the course of the season, we're going to look at some team-based stats to analyze that. And Blazers were one of the bottom half teams in the league last season in terms of pace. They were maybe the worst transition defense. I think there was a stat that backed that up last year. Also, last in assist percentage. So those are stats we're going to be able to use throughout the course of this season just to see, okay, is it better than last year? And then, of course, the second way that we're analyzing things is on a player-by-player basis. What players are improving, what players are looking good. And the two guys in this game that I was watching the most, and I think it's pretty obvious who it is, it's Scoot Henderson, it's Donovan Clingan, and both guys I thought were impressive tonight, which has me feeling pretty good about this game. Some of the style of play things, team-wise, maybe weren't so good, and the Blazers get a blowout win with the two primary factors being Sacramento could not hit a three, while the Blazers made some shots. I mean, you had Jabari Walker go back to his Colorado days and hit 3 threes, and also Sacramento extremely, extremely sloppy. This was the definition of a preseason game with how many turnovers there were. The Blazers finished with 18. The Kings finished with 26. It was very sloppy out there, and honestly, it was more so due to the Kings just being extremely sloppy, more so than the Blazers necessarily doing anything. So this one is a positive. I think it's more so of a positive in terms of just how guys played. The Blazers shot the 3-ball decently well, 36%. They got to the line a lot. Scoot, much better today. Clingan was really good today, much better than he was in his first preseason game. So that's what has me excited about this one, man, is just some of these young players that showed up and played well.
Yeah, so in regards to transition defense, I have a basically philosophical question. Are you a fan? We know last year they really put an emphasis on crashing the offensive rebounds. Do you want that to continue this year if they're still giving up that many transition baskets because of that? Or at some point, should they adjust and maybe lean towards the other way where we don't want to crash the boards as much, we want to stop the transition defense, or do you just not care this season because it's a taking season?
So if you're going to crash the offensive glass hard, you need to have two things to make up for that in terms of your transition defense. One, you need to always have a safety, because if 4 guys are crashing the offensive glass, you need to have the 5th guy, maybe the furthest guy away from the rim when the shot's taken. He needs to be the first line of defense back. And there is just multiple times early on, especially in this game, where the Blazers didn't seem to have a safety. And that's what you call the first guy back, the guy that doesn't crash the offensive glass. You can't really have all 5 guys crash the offensive glass, because if you don't get an offensive rebound, you're going to get absolutely cooked the other way. The Blazers pretty much showcased that with their inability to get back, where it was like, man, who's the safety? Who's the first line of defense? Because we saw it against the Clippers, and we saw it a little bit today where teams just throwing it over the top to them. The other thing you need is you need guys that will actually hustle hard back on defense. And so if you crash the offensive glass and don't get the board, you got to run back. You can't jog back. And that has been an issue last year. And that was an issue a bit during this game as well, primarily Jeremy Grant, which, okay, he's a veteran, it's preseason, whatever. But Jeremy Grant had some of those issues last season. And it's funny because you could easily make the case that Jeremy Grant was the Blazers' best player on the floor today, right? But the team looked much better without him in the game. And same thing for DeAndre Ayton, and I don't think that's necessarily anything that Ayton did wrong offensively. He was 5 for 8, missed a 3, but I like that he's taken them, had 8 boards. But the defense from those 2 players especially just is nothing impressive right now, and the Blazers were much better defensively without them on the floor. Their offense flowed more. They were able to get out and run a little bit more without those guys on the floor. And it's just funny how you're sitting here analyzing a rebuilding team in preseason game number 2, and you're talking about 2 players that are making a combined $60+ million. And in this game, I think the team looked better with Donovan Clingan in the game over Ayton. And with Grant out of the game, you had Jabari Walker 3 for 3 from 3. Chris Murray made some solid plays, and he wasn't impressive from a scoring standpoint, but he played better defense than Jeremy Grant, and he made some nice passes, and he didn't turn over the ball. And he definitely is not somebody who's going to over dribble it, which is a problem with Jeremy. So it's just funny, it's preseason, but a game like this makes me wonder, man, is this team going to go into the season where you have these vets in Ayton and Grant, but lineups without them, maybe they'll play better? Because it looked more like the team that this coaching staff seems to be trying to emphasize without those 2 on the floor, which I thought was just a very interesting wrinkle to this one. And if it's backed up by plus-minus as well. Jeremy Grant -2, DeAndre Ayton -1 in 16 and 18 minutes, respectively.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the end of our 2019 conference finals run, where it was just obvious that the team was better with Rodney Hood and Zach Collins on the floor over Aminu and Harkless. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily that those 2 did anything wrong. It's just there was an energy, and it just the flow was better with the other players in the game. It just seemed to gel more. And one thing in particular with Donovan Clingan that I noticed, I think you picked up on this too, when he rolls really hard to the basket, and it attracts a lot of attention, and it clears up the driving lanes for the point guard to get downhill, and it also opens up shooters who are having their defenders sag off of them and leads to easy kick-out passes. Most of Scoot's assists today were just simple passes to a person who's open to shoot a three. And those kind of plays, it seems very basic. But when you look at Ayton in the game, where he stops right in the middle of the paint or around the free throw line usually when he rolls, or he's a lot slower to get to the basket. And then when you drive, you're driving right into where Ayton is standing, or you're having to go around a center who's there instead. So just that little difference between the two, I think, freed up the offense a lot more. And once again, it's not saying that Ayton's bad or Clingan's good or whatever. It's just, I think you can see, and then obviously on defense, Clingan is just a little bit more imposing as a rim protector around the basket than Ayton is. Ayton's kind of just, I don't know, he doesn't really have much of an impact on defense. So I think those two little things make it just that much better from the team aspect with Clingan in the game. And obviously Clingan had some issues today with he was really tired after his first stint and needed to come out. So there are going to be issues, and we do, I think, need a quality center, whether that's a starting center and have Clingan come off the bench, or eventually Clingan starts and you need a good backup until he's able to play 30 minutes in an NBA game. But I think we can see just the early glimpses of how a rim protecting / lob threat can totally change this offense a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, there was a stretch in there where in the half court, Sacramento was getting nothing at the rim. And it wasn't even something where it was like, oh, man, Donovan Clingan is erasing everything and, like, you know, teams aren't attacking him in pick and roll. It was just like they weren't even trying to attack him at all. And it wasn't even apparent that it was necessarily, like, Clingan affecting anything. But it was just the correlation of it was very interesting to me. When Ayton was in this game, they were getting to the rim off a ton of pick and rolls. There is like 3 pick and rolls where Ayton was just hugging the screener, just locked to the screener and providing no help. And it was baffling to me. The big De'Aaron Fox dunk was one of those where De'Aaron Fox had a runway. DeAndre Ayton's guy screened. DeAndre Ayton's just not even around to help the guy that got screened. So It's just an interesting correlation, man. In these first 2 games, like, you can definitely tell that when Clingan's in the game, there's less at the rim for opposing teams. Sometimes it's Clingan with a block shot or clearly affecting things. Sometimes it's not so obvious. But when you got a shot blocker like that, that's somebody that can deter shots, even if he's not necessarily involved in the play, just because, you know, he's a legitimate defensive big. So I found that really interesting, man. Clingan does the little things, and that's what I've talked about, wanting players that do the little things. And you could see those little things in this game. His screens are so much better than Ayton's. His screens are good, and he even puts a little extra into them, but he, like, I'm impressed, man, because in the NBA, you can get away with moving a little bit on screens. You can get away with throwing your hip, throwing your shoulder a little bit into screens. But normally, like, rookies don't know where that edge is, and they get carried away with it if they do it. I mean, Donovan Clingan had multiple screens in this game, and it's not like refs weren't calling moving screens. They called one on him early on.
He
but
did get called, yeah.
Yeah, that was more so like him trying to roll hard out of it, I thought. He had multiple screens where he's putting a little extra into it, but he's not crossing the line where it's getting called. And you could tell the space off his screens is much greater than off of Ayton's. And then he rolls hard to the rim and draws attention and opens up a kick-out pass to 3. Guess what? That screen, that roll, that doesn't show up on the box sheet, on the box score. He's not going to get credited with points, with anything in the box score for that. But it's the little things that help open up a shot, and especially in an offense that is so heavily pick and roll, which the Blazers is. They're very stagnant, and a lot of their half-court sets just result in them running a pick and roll anyway. You got to get somebody that can screen hard, clear up space for these guards especially. Like, I'm excited to see Anthony Simons playing off of some of these screens, and then rolls hard to the rim and is actually somebody that can attract the defense due to him being 7'2". It's something called roll gravity, right? If you have gravity as a roll man, it means you can basically suck the defense in when you roll hard to the rim and get eyes on you, get attention on you, and that's what opens up those kick-out passes. That's what opens up shooters. So I love that, but then also just defensively, just the way he affected the game. But also he cleaned up a ton of plays today, 5 for 9, 0 for 3 from 3. The first 2 looked good and were close misses, which I will take that from him right now, especially considering he hit one last game. And then the third one was like a step back 3 at the shot clock buzzer, right? We're not expecting him to hit those at all. But outside that, 5 for 6 inside the arc, and he's just cleaning up plays. And it's multiple plays where like he's probably open on a lob and should be hit with a lob, but guys are just missing shots, and he's there. If there's any attention being paid to a pick-and-roll ball handler when they drive, Donovan Clingan is going to be phenomenal off of that, whether it's as a lob catcher or, let's say Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, whoever attacks the rim and guys are trying to block his shot, who's waiting there for the miss? It's the 7'2" rookie center. So after last game, like, he didn't look too good in his first preseason game, but that's to be expected. It's his first NBA preseason game. And people were saying, oh, yeah, he's just not ready. He's just not ready. He's just not ready. I don't know, man. The guy I saw tonight, I think, is ready for some NBA minutes.
Yeah, well, so one game it looked like he was maybe still a little further away than we thought. This game he looked like he was ready. I'm interested to see the next couple to see if he can maybe balance that out a little bit, or even better if he looks like tonight more often than on whatever day that was. What was it? Friday night?
Yeah.
He's a rookie. It's going to take him some time to get acclimated, but
and he's going to have
positive things you see right away, the better.
Yeah. That, and he's going to have some inconsistencies. I don't want that to get lost. Just because I just really want to touch upon what you were saying. Like, he's a rookie. He doesn't have to be consistently good in order to play. Mm-hmm. He should get the opportunity to play through his inconsistencies.
Right.
He doesn't have to consistently be a positive to play. That's not the point of playing a rookie. The point of playing a rookie is so that they can grow, so that they can get experience and develop. And development is never going to be, oh yeah, this dude comes in as a rookie and he's just always good. Even NBA vets aren't always good. Like, Ayton's going to have some stinkers. Jeremy Grant's going to have some stinkers. And I don't want it to ever become a conversation where Clingan has one subpar game or one game where he looks a little out of sorts and people say, oh, he's not ready to play, as a justification for what could eventually be him getting some DMPs because the Blazers are trying to showcase DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams. Okay? If that happens, it's not because Donovan Clingan is not ready to play developmental minutes. It's because the Blazers are trying to showcase Robert Williams and Donovan Clingan. I don't want that to get confused as we go into the season. Donovan Clingan is definitely ready to play developmental minutes, and here's the thing, like, he doesn't have to affect the game as a scorer. His screens, the way he rolls, and his defense will be positives, I think. Maybe not every single night, but I think he'll be consistent enough where it's like, man, I think he'll have some stretches where he's in the game and he's not doing much offensively, but the team looks better, and I think this was the first of said games.
Yeah, absolutely. So you thought his three attempts were fine today?
Yeah, he shot 2. I think 2 of them were with the shot clock going down. One was like basically the shot clock buzzer, and the first 2 were open enough, and he barely missed them. I was completely fine with that.
I like to see him, not all the time, and because then you're getting into Ayton territory. But some of those, you don't always have to pop out for 3. I'd like to see him maybe see if he can shoot like some free throw line jumpers occasionally from the elbow, where he's coming in more and getting maybe just a quicker shot versus just standing out at the 3-point line. But I liked his mix of, other than those few times he shot the 3-point ball, I thought he rolled often enough. And that was my one concern if he was going to shoot threes, is him kind of hanging out around the perimeter too much and not rolling hard, because we see how effective it is. But I thought he did a good job of not just settling for standing around the 3-point line.
Yeah, I thought it was a good balance for sure. And he talked about it after last game, focusing on rolling hard to the rim. He also had a block in this game on Sabonis that we didn't get to see because we're watching some like weird Jumbotron feed because that was like the only thing available. And the Kings announcer was raving about the timing of it, and it really bummed me out that was like one of the only couple plays we didn't see because apparently it's really good defensive play on Domantas Sabonis. He played some good post defense on Alex Len. So loved what I saw out of Clingan, man. It'll be a shame if there's games this year where he doesn't play. There should be no DMPs for him this year. I get it that he's not in the best shape, and you could tell he was clearly gassed there in the second half, but honestly, like long-term starting center, how many minutes a game is he going to play? 30? Okay, he probably plays 6 to start the game, subs back in with the bench, plays another, 5, and then comes in at the end of a half and plays another, 4 or 5, and he's getting 30 minutes a game. That's probably how his minutes would be broken up, even if he gets into better shape, simply so you can keep him fresh, because even after playing like a 6-minute stint, he'd sub out. He would come back in with energy. It wasn't like he was gassed at the start of his shifts. It's after 6 minutes or so, like you could tell he's really started to labor. And some of that is he's like sprinting up to set a screen, rolling really hard. Blazers don't get anything. He's sprinting back up to set another screen, rolling hard, right? And he's a 7'2" big man. Like he's gonna get gassed with the way he plays. Like Alex Len catches the ball at the top of the arc, and he pressures him to not let him like see the floor. And then right as Alex Len gets rid of the ball, he backs off into the paint so he can be ready for anything coming at him. That's little stuff that is good defensively, but you're going to get a little bit more worn out because you're just moving more compared to some other center defenders where if Alex Len has the ball at the 3-point arc, they're just kind of sagging off and just sitting there in the paint, not moving. So conditioning still needs to get better, but that's all the more reason to play him legitimate minutes this season so that he can get in better shape. How do you get in game shape? You play in games.
Right. Yeah, I think wearing him out a little bit, even in preseason, that can only help him. Hopefully it's not like a respiratory issue or anything like that, but yeah, he definitely just needs to get minutes and learn how to play when you're a little tired too. Like you have to be able to sometimes just like suck it up and continue to work even if you're not 100% or you're a little worn out or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So loved what I saw out of Clingan today.
Go
ahead.
Before we move on to Scoot, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay. Last post-game show, someone asked when the last time the Blazers beat an actual NBA team in a preseason game.
Yeah.
Do you know when that is?
No, I know it was before Chauncey.
Yeah, before Chauncey. Yeah, it was December 11th, 2020 was the last time. So it's been 4 years since we won a game. That was
COVID year. That's crazy.
Coming off the bubble, yeah. So there was a shortened 72-game season that started around Christmas or something. And we won a preseason game in December that year. Other than that, we have beaten a couple of international teams, and that is it. And still, since Chauncey was not at this game, I don't think that counts. So
nope.
He still has never won a preseason game against an NBA team.
And I will say this, like, I don't think the coaching was necessarily any better today. I mean, they're kind of – here's the thing. Okay, yes, the Blazers won by 20. Yes, I still have something to rant about, okay? Before we get into Scoot. Eric, I am so tired of the set where point guard dribbles it up the court, hands it off behind him to a trailing forward, who then goes and hands it off to somebody else on the wing, who then passes it back up top to the point guard, and then they run a pick and roll, or then they isolate. Like, what is that? That's the window dressing set that I tweeted about at the start of Friday night's preseason game. Like, I guess the first handoff, like maybe the forward can turn downhill, but teams see it coming, and we ran it so much tonight. How many do we really have to practice doing 2 handoffs and passing it back up top to the point guard just to run some pick and roll in the preseason? Like, if you can't execute that set, then you probably should have never made the NBA. I mean, it's such a basic set, and there's really like no reads out of it. Other than, okay, can this forward turn downhill, or should they go hand it off to somebody so they can pass it back up top to Scoot? And there was a couple of times where like Sacramento was just sitting on those handoffs or sitting on those passes, and you could tell they see it coming. And it's like these guys aren't scouting that hard for preseason, and it's just we ran it so freaking much. And like when this offense gets sloppy, especially last year, it's because we're like trying to run a set like that. They take away a pass and we're screwed. We don't have like, okay, if they take away this pass, here's what's next. It's like, nope, you have to go hand it off, and then you have to hand it off to the next guy, and then you have to pass it back up to the top, and then you can do something. And it drives me crazy. I hate that set so much. Chat, do you know what set I'm talking about? And Eric, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just a Chauncey thing. This was something that they ran under Stotts as well. It's just, the actions that lead to nothing, they're just actions for the sake of actions. Just kill me, man. I mean, if you're a smart team, you could fake coming up for the weave and do some stuff there, set a back screen, things like that. But we don't ever do anything out of that. And in fact, there was twice where Scoot, for some reason, just went and stood up between the 3-point line and half court, so we couldn't even run the weave properly because his defender was like standing in between them, and it was all jumbled. And so they still tried to run it anyway, and like no one knew where to go because Scoot's guy was right there. And like it was like, why did someone cut to the basket? It's wide open. They're all overplaying you after you run it a couple times. So I mean, if it's too set up, that kind of stuff later in the game, fine. Like, I understand that. It's like, play action in football. You run, and then you fake the run to set up a long pass play or whatever. But that's not whatever, like, nothing, no wrinkles come of it. So, that's the frustrating part.
Yeah, that set drove me crazy last year. It drives me crazy this year. I mean, it's just, that's the thing. That's kind of the one thing I'm worried about. Is you bring in a new assistant coaching staff, but all the sets kind of look the same. And even on a night without Chauncey, you're just spamming that set. So I had a tweet. I would love to see the ratio of dribble handoffs to basket cuts for the Blazers compared to other teams, because I swear it has to be the highest ratio of like they just dribble handoff, like pass around the top of the key and then run pick and roll or ISO. Like, listen, it worked tonight. And they're going to try and get out and run, right? So they don't want to be playing in the half court as much as they did, say, last year. But, man, I would like to see us get more creative. And this is kind of what I talked about last post-game show with somebody like Scoot. Like, is this the best situation for his development? Because in that play, if he's the point guard, ball just ends up with him, and it's just like a slow developing pick and roll in the defense's set, or he has to isolate and he's not really much of a one-on-one player in the defense's set. Like, I would love to get him curling off screens a little bit more and just have it as like one part of a full set. I would love to set him a freaking backdoor cut. He's athletic. He can catch a lob, or he can catch a pass on a backdoor and explode around the rim. But it's like in the half court, we never get him moving in space without the ball. And we never get, like, pretty much any of our guards moving in space without the ball. Like, we'll run some curls for Sharp, right? And we ran one on Friday night for Banton. He got that lob to Clingan. It's just like, man, we got to do that with these athletic guards. Get them moving in space because they're athletic. So, like, set-wise, not too impressed. I mean, the Blazers made more threes than they normally do tonight. And there were some good things that came out of the half-court offense, especially after the first stint. So it's not like necessarily the half-court offense was bad tonight by any means. It's just, man, I would like to see them get a little bit more creative. That's something I was looking for in this preseason, and even in a good game like this, didn't really see that.
Right. And in Oregon, they just adopted finally shot clock in high school basketball.
Yeah, about time.
But that was, so the weave play that the Blazers run, that was what teams do when they want to just like waste the time, or like they're playing a good team and you want to keep the ball away from them for as long as possible. It was never designed to like score off it. That was just like, oh, let's just run the ball off and waste the last few minutes of the game until they have to foul or something.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about Scoop, but first, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the stream. If you guys want to get in on any betting action with the NBA this season, make sure you check out BetUS. They're giving you an 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and 125% bonuses on your second and third deposits up to $2,000. If you use that promo code on the screen, that's YouTube150. Phenomenal promotion. One of the best promotions out there. I can't think of a better promotion. And listen, if you think the Blazers are going to be better than advertised this year, there's some really good lines over on BetUS.com that you can check out for yourself and maybe get in on the action with and multiply your winnings with this sign-up bonus that BetUS is offering. Shout out to them for sponsoring the stream. And we are only 10 days away from our first Picks Against the Spread stream, where we will pick BetUS lines. We'll do that Mondays and Thursdays, but we're going to do opening night instead for that week, which is the 23rd, which is a Wednesday. That's when the Blazers play their first game. So shout out to BetUS. Going to look at some lines throughout the season, especially with them as well. Eric, Scoot Henderson played much better than he did on Friday. Statistically, pretty good game from him. 17 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, only 1 turnover. You love the 7 assists to 1 turnover. There's a couple passes that got tipped and the Blazers were able to corral it, right? But 7 assists, 1 turnover, phenomenal assist to turnover ratio right there. Had some really nice kick-out passes. That's maybe his best pass, is that kick-out pass, which is why it's nice to have somebody that rolls as hard as Clingan does. That can attract some attention. 5 for 13 from the field isn't necessarily great, but he did get to the line 8 times, 6 for 8 from the free throw line. So he had 17 points on 13 shots. Better efficiency, much better efficiency than his first preseason game. And listen, man, I said this on the postgame show after that first game. People wait all summer for some basketball, and it's super easy to overreact to one preseason game because you're waiting all offseason just to react to something. And I have a lot of people in our chat saying Scoot's not it, and a lot of negativity on Twitter, and a lot of negativity just towards Scoot after that first game. And, people are like, man, he didn't improve anything. He didn't look any better. He came into that shot 4 for 16, had 7 turnovers, right? Didn't look better. Well, he improved into preseason game number 2. And the thing is improvement is never linear, right? Even if he improved this past offseason, it didn't necessarily mean that he was just going to come out and play good in preseason game number 1. He has to get the feel back, the timing of his passes, the windows. I think Chauncey even talked about it, right? Or maybe it was Scoo, I forget which one. But basically, it's your first time back playing the NBA pace. That can't be replicated with Rico Hines runs or training camp practices. It's gonna take some time for a lot of players to get a feel for the NBA level again. I mean, you saw some veterans on the Kings today that looked awful. Domantas Sabonis today, 4 for 11, missed a bunch of bunnies, had 5 turnovers, right? Which is why I thought it was just silly to overreact to Scoot Henderson, a 20-year-old second-year point guard after one preseason game, and then he comes out today and looks better. Controlled the game well, made some nice passes, had a couple good defensive plays, had a few bad defensive plays as well. That definitely is not a strong point for him, but jumper's not falling, but had some really nice finishes. Had 3 straight buckets to end the first half. There's a lot of good in this game from him, plus 13. What were your thoughts on Scoot, Eric?
Yeah, I liked his tempo a little bit better in this game. Just a side note, this was the Kings' 3rd preseason game, and they've looked excellent in their first 2 games. So this was more the outlier than their other 2 games so far. But, yeah, I mean, it's still a little clunky, but he is drawing fouls, which is good. Like you mentioned, getting the line 8 times. So he starts off 1 for 5, but I think he had all 8 of his free throws at that point. And so got to the line, you improve your efficiency that way. His free throws, I don't know if he needs to change his shot a little bit on his free throws or he's just rushing it or what. It does seem a little flat or something when he shoots his free throws.
Yeah, he shot 75% today and shot 80% last year, though, so I'm not going to worry about that yet.
Yeah, hopefully that's I mean, plus 80% would be fine. And then, yeah, he hit. So he made a good move. He turned the corner off a pick and roll, and got to the rim quick. One good thing about Sacramento playing against them, they don't really have rim protectors, so he turned that corner and got right to the rim, laid it in. That was good, and then gets a steal on the next play for a wide open dunk. But outside of those 3 baskets in a row, then he goes 1 for 5 in the second half. But it definitely looked better than he did last time.
Yeah, and here's the thing with improving is there's some things that you can improve upon more during an off season when you're doing a bunch of skill work, right? But there's other things that you kind of need NBA reps to improve upon. That's harder to improve in the off season and actually easier to improve during the course of an NBA season as you're playing upwards of 82 regular season games a year. And one of those things, I think, is being able to pick your spots offensively for your own offense. And I think one of the biggest things for Scoot is just picking his spots when to shoot. Because he had some really nice finishes when he was able to get downhill to the rim. And I feel like a lot of the shots that he's missed in the first couple of games, like there was a few of them where it's just like, man, just don't even take that shot. You're missing that shot because it's a tough shot. You're missing that shot because it's a long contested 2-pointer with 12 on the shot clock, right? Or you're trying to force a layup that's just not there and you don't even have to force it because you still got enough time on the shot clock. Just kick it out and move the ball along. And I think that's a big part of his efficiency is picking the right shots and picking the right spots. It's really hard to train that during the off season because you kind of just need to play NBA basketball to be able to read an NBA floor, right? Like people talking about like, man, apparently he didn't look good at Rico Hines runs and didn't look good at FanFest and this and that. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't really care about that. The reason why I'm being patient with Scoot is I think if he picks his spots properly, he's going to be a really, really solid offensive player, and he'll be efficient enough, especially with how he can get to the free throw line. He'll be efficient enough to be a positive on that end. But picking your spots, how do you train that in the offseason? How do you train, okay, in this situation when I'm driving at a 7-footer, I need to kick it out, I need to back the ball out, etc., instead of trying to force a shot. You kind of need NBA experience and NBA reps in order to work upon that. And that's where the talk about, like, man, you just wanted to see Scoot show improvement in his first preseason game. Well, some of the things he has to improve upon aren't easy to improve upon in the offseason. And that's where I was encouraged last season when he improved throughout the course of the season, because that shows me that he's learning from his game tape. He's probably, he's watching film, learning from the film, and gaining something from the NBA reps that he's getting. And I expect that again in his second year. And that is why, Eric, I said that I think Scoot might be a mixed bag and struggle the first 20 games of the year before he really starts figuring it out, because number one, you're just getting back to the NBA level, and number two, some of the things he needs to improve upon, I just think he needs more experience and more reps.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it would be good for him if they basically just said don't shoot unless you're wide open or have a wide open lay-in, and like look to pass on everything, at least initially. I'm not saying like long term to do that, but I just find it like myself wanting to see him come up with some creative passes on his drives instead of throwing up some weird lay-in that's probably not going to go in. So maybe like just always like have that mindset to where I'm a pass first point guard, not a scoring point guard. Maybe for a little bit, just to like set your team up and things like that while he works on his finishing and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the downside to that is you can't completely pacify him. Like, he got 8 free throws today because he's driving hard, creating contact, drawing fouls, right? That needs to be a part of his game. I think if he's ever going to be an efficient offensive player, a part of it is going to be that he's a high free throw volume guy. But it's like, okay, it's figuring out that line where, okay, I can get to the free throw line. I need to go strong here, try and finish. Like, this is an opportunity to either finish or get to the line. And then, okay, this is not one of those opportunities just based on reading the defense, right? Like, okay, this is not one of those opportunities I need to move the ball along. And it's a very nuanced thing that happens in the blink of an eye for an NBA point guard that needs experience, right? Like, you need that sort of experience. If he was like 6'7", 6'8", and Luka Doncic, right, he can drive into the paint slow, bump somebody, and take his time reading what to do and figuring out what to do, and he can stop and turn around and shoot over guys easily, right? But Scoot's not that guy. Scoot's 6'2", 6'3", an athletic-based point guard. It's a lot harder because he either has to try and explode to the rim and finish quick or finish around big men in a way that some of these other guys that came into the league didn't have to in order to have success as a rookie. And some of it's, just obviously making the right kick-out pass, making the right play. So I don't know what the perfect solution is for him to get to that point, but that's part of where, if he's being developed properly, receiving the right coaching, that's something you can watch in film, something you can learn off of film. So that is where I think his game could have the most growth. Is just learning where to pick his spots. I would say I would adopt your mindset for shots between the free throw line and three-point line, because I do think he shoots too many contested long twos.
Yeah, well, the point about the free throws is a good one. However, one of his things, he got fouled up top and we were in the bonus, and that was primarily because he was driving and creating fouls. So you can still draw fouls on drives, and if you get fouled, throw it up, or, get into the bonus and then be super aggressive and just drive with the mindset of being a foul merchant. I don't think there's anything wrong with that type of attitude. Most of the elite players in this league have some sort of ability to get to the free throw line. There's just a little too many times where he's still, and this is going to change hopefully, but like where he throws up some stuff that the minute he goes up for a shot, it's not coming anywhere close to going in. And I just wish some of those he would look to maybe just, even if it's not there, just try to get it to the big or kick out like he's been doing a good job of.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's where ultimately he needs to not shoot those shots and needs to kick it out. And as he gets better with some of his finishing, like, okay, then maybe he can develop to the point where he can hit some of those tough lay-ins. But I know exactly what you're talking about with those shots where that they're not going in, and his efficiency, his finishing numbers, his game overall would look much better if he didn't try and force those shots. I think there's, and you kind of touched upon this before the preseason, and I downplayed it a little bit, but I do think there is some truth to, like, he's trying to force his own offense and trying to assert himself as a scorer. The best version of Scoot probably is a 10 assists guy, though, that gets, maybe 16, 17 points per game, gets to the free throw line a lot, and hopefully shoots a league average three-point ball. I mean, a dude that's like 17 and 18 and 10 is a really good player. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton was an all-star this past season, averaging, 20 and 10, and led that Indiana team to a conference finals berth. So, maybe it's not the complete and utter superstar that people were hoping for when he came into the league, but that's still a really good player, and I think an archetype that is his ceiling. We've heard comments from certain people saying, oh, his best case scenario is Marcus Smart with playmaking. Well, he's not that type of defender, but also he's more athletic, more explosive offensively. It just comes down to picking his spots and making the right pass. So hopefully he can become that type of player, because his passing is good. His passing as a rookie was good. 7 assists tonight in 25 minutes, and he doesn't have great shooting around him. I'm very confident in his passing. I just think picking his spots would make him maybe an even better passer. He'd create even more for teammates, and it'd also make him more efficient as a scorer on lower shot volumes. So I think that's kind of the recipe for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always, unless you are, a really good shooter or scorer, I prefer point guards to be pass first and more the type that set up the offense. So I wouldn't mind at all if that was more so his style, especially as he's learning how to score in the NBA.
Yep.
Doesn't mean he can't be aggressive at times. You could still attack the rim and stuff and try to score. I just don't think it should be like a heavy dose of that every game, especially as the team improves.
Yep, absolutely. Tyler Smith says, did someone get smacked in the head with a frying pan before making that Marcus Smart comparison? Listen. No comment. I'm not going into calling out media takes this year, okay? I'll say why I disagree with them, but I'm being more civil this season, Eric. That's called personal growth.
Yeah. I do not see it defensively yet with Scoot. Hopefully that changes once he learns the game a little better. But he's not good at all defense, and you could say that for most of our team. So that's not a knock on him. Most of the players on our team, outside of hopefully Toumani and the two new guys, Deni and Clingan, outside of those three, it's you have some okay defenders like Chris and Jabari and stuff, but I don't expect those guys to get a ton of minutes if we're fully healthy this year. And then Robert Williams, if he's ever on the court, maybe. But outside of that, almost everyone else, you could say, has that same issue on defense. But Scoot in particular, I just am going to laugh if he's compared to any defensive type point guards until he shows any sort of ability to be a defensive guard.
Yeah. He needs to learn when to give a gap on the ball handler. He tries to be very in your face and physical defensively. Oftentimes it just results in him not being able to stay in front of who he's guarding and him getting burnt. Mm-hmm. I think, he has that mindset, I'm a dog, right? Well, sometimes you try too hard defensively to get in the ball handler and it doesn't work. Like, how many times is he going to force a steal off that? I would rather see him give a proper gap to try and take away the three, or at least make threes difficult, but give himself a little bit more leeway to stay in front of the ball, because I don't think he's particularly slow laterally. I just think he gets himself beat from the jump with how close he's guarding guys, where he doesn't even have a chance to slide and stay in front of the ball. So I think that needs to be a coaching emphasis with him this year, but this is the same head coach that puts Jeremy Grant on guards and then watches him die on every screen and thinks it's a good thing and plays guards in the bottom of a 2-3. So, I don't have a ton of hope for that being an adjustment, but I do think he could be an okay defensive player, but he just needs to position himself better on ball.
Yeah, he's just way too, off ball too. He's just stuck, he'll be in a good position, but then he'll just stay there, and then or he'll help when he doesn't need to help or reach in or something. I don't know, but those are all part of learning.
Yep, absolutely. Another second-year player, Toumani Camara. Listen, he's taking the ball stronger to the rim, and I love it. He had an issue last year where a lot of his finishes, he's fading away. He's flipping shots up from almost behind his back. He's extending his arm and just trying all this weird stuff where it's dude, you're athletic and 6'8". Why are you fading away on so many finishes? He had 2 drives today. One was a finish and one, and he missed the free throw, unfortunately. And then one, he got fouled. And I think both were on DeMar DeRozan. I know at least one was, where he's driving right. Keep in mind, he's a left-hander. He's driving right and finishing strong with his right, and I feel like it was drives where last season he's trying some reverse where he's flipping it up, not under control. In both of these plays, he's taking it right to the rim, and he's looked really good. 4 for 5 from the field tonight, 1 for 1 from 3. His 3-point shot looks buttery smooth, but the dribble drive game is intriguing. He did have 3 turnovers. One of them was a travel where he caught the ball in the wing and tried to jab step and got a little happy-footed. But then a couple possessions later, he caught the ball in the same situation, did the same move, and did it properly without traveling, right? I like that he wasn't scared to try the same move and just made sure he didn't travel. he's quick enough off the dribble. Like, I like that jab step and then driving the other way. But I just love that he's taking the ball stronger, because he should be a guy that should finish well with his athleticism, and he has pretty decent touch with his right hand, with his offhand. So I love that we've seen a little bit out of that from him so far this preseason.
Yeah, there were some moments he looked a little rough in the first half, but in the second half there was a stretch where he looked like the best player on the floor for a few minutes. And yeah, just really excited to see his growth this season. Just his shot mechanics look better. It feels like he's more comfortable. It doesn't feel like he has any doubt he belongs on the court. Not that he did necessarily last year, but like you can just tell he's a lot more confident in his ability to be an NBA player this year. And yeah, I really think, I mean, there's nothing really he can't do, and there's nothing really that he's bad at. He might not be like great at anything either right now, but like that's a good solid player. I mean, it's everything we hoped we'd have in like some of our other forwards over the years, right? And he's all that in one player. So it's good to finally have that kind of guy. And then we haven't talked about Deni yet, but to see him and Deni and Clingan on the floor together, that was fun for a little bit. I think they all started the second half together, and our defense was really good during that stretch. I think we only allowed like 18 points the whole third quarter or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. I just want to touch upon this on air, like, real quick. There's a comment in chat saying we're sugarcoating things with Scoot. Number one, Eric hasn't sugarcoated much with Scoot. Number two, instead of just saying we're sugarcoating it, like, tell us specifically what you think is wrong that we're saying. Because we can have a conversation and chat about it. And also, I'm always curious with people, especially people that watch us a lot and are civil. Like, okay, if you disagree with us, what specifically do you disagree with? I'm always curious to hear that, right? So if we're sugarcoating Scoot, like, tell me what I'm saying that you disagree with, because I don't know, man. Like, I think it's I think what I'm saying is pretty well thought out, and it's. I'd just be curious to hear what you think of it as incorrect. So if you think anything I said on Scoot is incorrect, let me know in the chat. And listen, Eric would disagree with me if he thought I was wrong with anything regarding Scoot. He did it a lot last year. We argued about it a lot last year. So trust me, he's not afraid to give Scoot some criticism.
Yeah, and so for the record, I'm still more concerned about Scoot than I am hopeful. But I don't want to also sit here and just say the same crap for 86 games, including preseason. Like, that's not fun for anyone. So, like, last stream, if you want us to be more anti-Scoot or whatever you want to call it, then go watch last post-game show. This game, he didn't really do a lot to be negative about, outside of, like I said, starting the game 1 for 5 and ending the game 1 for 5. But other than that, he played decent, and so I'm not going to sit up here and just kill him. It's not sugarcoating. I just don't feel the need to, like, kill him tonight instead of, like everyone did after his first game.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the extremes go more so towards the negatives than the positives with him at this point. Connor has a comment in chat, says it's preseason in year 2. It's too early to say his career arc has been decided. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are just completely writing him off, even though he hasn't even started his second regular season. And that's just wild to me. And all my Scoot discussion is all about the process of him getting better, the developmental aspect of it. I'm not going to be like super reactionary where, oh, he has a night where he struggles and it's like, oh, he sucks, he's bad, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, this is what he's struggling with. This is what he needs to get better at. I am going to try and approach it that way. Maybe 3 years from now it doesn't pan out and it's like, yeah, he's just not good enough. He didn't work out. Like, okay, cool, completely fine. In terms of like analyzing it, it's not fine in terms of the Blazers drafted this dude with the third overall pick, right? Like, it's not good if he doesn't pan out. But at the end of the day, like it's all a process, and this season is all a process. So with Scoot, it's just, okay, what does he need to get better at? How is he going to get better? That's the conversation for me. It's not, oh, this dude isn't the superstar we thought from day one. Like, I just don't really get anything out of those conversations.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Isaac Figueroa, member 15 months, says, go Blazers. What would be our starting lineup, though? Thank you, Isaac. Shout out to you for being a channel member. Chat, if you want to become a channel member, click the join button below the video. We'll do some fun stuff for members on post-game streams this season. What's our starting lineup opening night? I mean, assuming Anthony Simons is all right because he missed these 2 games with some sort of injury. Anthony Simons definitely
ankle.
Ankle. Hopefully it's all right. He has 10 days between now and opening night. Like, assuming it's just, they're playing it cautiously because it is the preseason. He's going to start. Jeremy's going to start. Deni's going to start. Ayton's going to start. Your 5th starter is either going to be Scoot Henderson or Toumani Camara. I lean more towards Scoot Henderson, but Kamara's played good this preseason, and he started tonight at the shooting guard spot. So he started with Avdija and Grant. It could be Camara. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Camara, but I do think ultimately they'll end up just going with Scoot, going with Simons, and seeing what that backcourt looks like, which I think is a completely fine decision.
Yeah, they did get it did ease this decision a little bit with Sharp being hurt right away. So even when he comes back, you could just say, well, we want to see how you come back from injury for a few weeks, and then if he plays really well, you can insert him in the starting lineup. If he struggles a little bit or needs some time to get up to game speed and stuff like that, then you can prolong this a little longer. But yeah, there's 6 people that are currently on the Blazers that could start, and obviously it's going to come down to those 2 you mentioned. I would be surprised if they didn't end up starting Scoot. But I could also see him rewarding Toumani for a good preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Comment by One Piece says, today Scoot played what I hoped his floor is. Don't care if his shot is falling, but at least he's not turning the ball over like crazy, and at least he's not driving too fast for his own handles today. I mean, if his floor is a decently efficient 17 points per game, like shooting from the floor wasn't great, but he got to the line 8 times, right? So like okay efficiency. I don't know what his true shooting percentage was, but okay efficiency, 17 points per game, 7 assists and 1 turnover in only 25 minutes. Like, that's a pretty high floor. So, if this was a regular season game, he played like this and played, 35 minutes, his final stat line is probably 20 and 10 with 1 or 2 turnovers. Like, I'll take that for a floor.
Mm-hmm. And Kenneth says Camara needs to start if we want to win. If we want to tank, start Scoot. It doesn't matter, Kenneth. I mean, I wish it did. I wish we were talking about a contending team right now, but the West is just too loaded. We're not better than at least 10 or 11 teams. You could maybe argue if everything breaks right, we're maybe battling for that last play-in spot till late in the season or something. But outside of that, there's but there's, like, let's just say we tried to win every game and we're the best team possible. Like, it's not possible that we're better than that unless, like, every other team loses all their players to injuries like the entire season. Like, we're just not good enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing this organization could do would be to start hyper-focusing on winning at all costs right now. Because their focus should be winning at all costs 3 to 4 years down the line when they actually have a chance to win enough for it to mean something. Right? And it's just wild to me, like, Blazer fans got tired of, oh, this team's a playoff team but never good enough to contend for, like, a decade. And, okay, well, why do we want to go right back to being stuck in the middle? I don't. But it's not necessarily about going into the season like, okay, we're going to tank. It's not, oh, we either focus on winning or we focus on tanking. I don't think it's either of those. I think it's you focus on developing what you have. and then you focus on getting assets that help you maximize your future window of contention, whenever that is. Because it's not right now. As hard as they try, it is not right now. It is not next year. Okay, they're not winning a championship or coming close to winning a championship the next 2 years. And the sooner we accept that, the easier it is to deal with this entire rebuild. Listen, I've accepted that. That's why I'm having fun watching these young guys. I'm having fun talking about the development of these young guys, because that is what this season is about.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, if on the pathway of developing these players and trying to do better things as a team, trying to push the pace, let's say they become a really good fast break team, and if they win games because of that, cool, right? If they develop guys so well that they're in a play-in game at the end of the year, cool, right? But that's because you developed well. That's not because, oh, we're trying whatever we can to get that 10th seed to get into a play-in game. So that's my thoughts on the mindset, man. It's all about development this year. That doesn't mean tanking from the jump. That doesn't mean winning at all costs.
Yeah. And there's at least 3 players right now that it's hard to guarantee anyone, but between Cooper Flagg, AJ Daibatsa, and Cam Boozer, those are 3 as close to locks of being good NBA players as you can get heading into like a year or 2 years away from drafts. And getting one of those 3 guys would absolutely change the direction of this franchise into possible contention for a long window. And I don't see the benefit of missing out on an opportunity to get one of those 3 just by like winning games. But like, even if you did, like, I still don't think we're good enough to like do anything. So like we'd be stuck in that like 12-13 range, maybe 11, if we win a bunch of games this year, or have better than we think season. And it's just, I mean, you could still get lucky and move up in the lottery, I guess, or you could still get unlucky if you were the worst team as well. I don't see a path, especially with Chauncey's coaching and all that kind of stuff, when you factor everything in, the fact that we're probably going to make moves at some point before the deadline with some of the older players on the team. It's just, I don't see a path where, unless Sharp comes back healthy, Anthony's like a near all-star, and Scoot continues to improve, and Clingan's like the next great center prospect, which he could be, but unless all those guys start showing that this season, I don't know how you get there.
Yeah. Next player you want to talk about, Eric? Who's that?
Let's talk about Deni in his first game.
Yeah. So stat line: 2 for 8 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, 5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. He was a plus 15, in stark contrast to 3 other starters. Camara was plus 3, Grant and Ayton were minus 2, minus 1, right? So, first game, what were your thoughts?
Obviously didn't shoot the ball well. There were some positives. One, he got a rebound, and I think he threw it ahead to Camara, I think it was. Got an easy layup or dunk. It was nice to see someone grab a rebound and push the ball up the floor with a long look-ahead pass. And then in the second half, it was the opposite, where someone else got a rebound, looked ahead to him, who was streaking the floor, and got a wide-open layup. Those are the kind of plays, getting an easy basket. If you just do that a couple times a game, it really improves your offensive rating, not having to go into the half court every time. I do see a slight problem forming, and that's, I think Deni is better on ball than off ball. And if you have Camara on the ball, Deni he was out of position a little bit at times. So maybe at times I think Avdija should be on the ball, and maybe you have Camara being the help defender instead. I don't know. Like, Deni could still improve in that, but as of right now, I think he's much better pressuring the ball. So maybe.
I mean, is that based on last year?
Well, yeah, a little bit last year, a little bit just looking at the overall analytics and stuff like that, and then a little bit just from this game, watching him kind of. It seemed like he was struggling to know what to do when he wasn't, because he's been used as that primary point of attack defender in Washington pretty much since he was a rookie. So, like, I don't think he's used to being off ball as much.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like, you're never gonna be all one or the other, and
Right.
even if you're guarding like the highest usage player in the league, you're gonna probably have as many off-ball situations to deal with as on the ball, right? I think it's just more so how do you delegate it between, like, okay, this is their best player, who guards him, Camara or Avdija? I would put Avdija on him, and then who's the number two? I think that's Camara, and then hopefully you have like somebody that can provide some secondary rim protection, and then you got your rim protector, and I think that's kind of how you set things up defensively. So I guess I'd agree in terms of how you would delegate that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it has to be all the time. It's just like so far, like in this game, we used Camara on ball like pretty much the whole game when they were both in. So maybe figuring out a way. If one of them comes off the bench and one of them starts, I guess that's not an issue because Deni can take that spot in the starting lineup. But I did really like seeing three defensive forwards together. That was nice.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had that. But I do think like there are some shots at the rim that he'll make that he missed today that he kind of forced. I think this offense maybe is not the best for him. We did see him attack the catch really well on a play. I forget what the final result was, but he's somebody that will like run into a kick out pass and drive the lane off of it. First game playing with a new team, like I don't really have many thoughts. I really liked his lob to Clingan. I really liked his head-to-head pass to Camara, and that's what he can provide. I just like he didn't really do much as a scorer, but still had some solid on-the-ball defensive possessions. He'll rebound. He'll make the right pass, right? He doesn't need to rely upon scoring the ball to be effective, and it's nice to have a couple guys we can say that about.
Yeah, that one play with the lob, because he was kind of, I was feeling that too, what you said about him having a tough time fitting in the offense and just running the weave handoff stuff. It's not really his game, but it looked like he was going to be like, oh, crap, here's another wasted possession. And then all of a sudden he throws this great lob pass. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how he saw him turned around. So, really, really positive to see him make something out of nothing there. The shooting, obviously, we're hoping that the 37% he shot from three last year is his new norm versus him really struggling his first 3 years in the league. But, yeah, we're not going to judge that off of one preseason game yet.
Yep. Other players to touch home about. Chris Murray had some solid passes in this one, 3 assists, 2 for 5 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 20 minutes. Had some okay defensive possessions. Like he was okay. He was solid. I really like a couple of the passes that he had.
One fast break, I thought he was going to force the lay-in. I was like, no, you don't shoot that one. You have two guys streaking, and he had a really nice dump-off pass. But, felt like he didn't really do much in the second half. I might have missed something, but, like, most of his impact was in the first half.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, like if he makes nice, solid plays, like cool, yeah, that's a positive. I want to see the shooting improvement. 1 for 3 from 3 today, like we're not going to be able to tell that from the preseason. So for him, it's like need time to see whether his shot has improved because you're not going to be able to tell off of 2 preseason games. You're probably not going to be able to tell off of 10 regular season games, and who knows how much he even plays if this team is healthy. So I think the jury's going to be out on his shooting for a decent part of this season, and I think his shooting, as I've said before, is the number one thing that will determine whether he can be a role player on a decent NBA team or not.
Mm-hmm.
Banton, 4 for 8 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 2 for 4 from the free throw line, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers. Made a couple threes, which is nice. The last time he played in Sacramento, he was like 0 for 15 from 3, which I believe was an NBA record. Had a couple nice drives. I will say, like, I still just wish he read the court a little bit better. This is kind of like one of those games that he'd have last year where he'd score the ball decently, 12 points in 18 minutes, decent efficiency, like, cool. But I don't know, man. It's I would like to see him have more than 2 assists. There was a couple times where I thought he should have lobbed it to Clingan, and he didn't. One of Clingan's putbacks was a play that should have been an easy lob to Clingan, especially for a big guard like Banton, that he just shot a layup against 2 defenders, and it came off the rim right to Clingan, right? And Clingan cleaned it up. It's like, man, just lob that next time. So playmaking reads are the biggest thing for Banton that I care about this season.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing I was talking about with Scoot earlier. I would love to just, especially in preseason when you're trying to show things, I would love to see him become more of a pass first, because unlike what you were saying about, to counter what I was saying, Scoot being smaller and not as big as Luka, Banton does have the height to pass over the top of the defense on drives. And so I would love to maybe just see him know that you don't have to force a shot. Even if you make it, it's not necessarily the best shot when you have a teammate wide open on the other side of the hoop.
Yep, 100%. Jabari Walker, 3 for 3 from 3 for Jabari, looking like his old Colorado days. 11 points in 16 minutes on 4 for 6 shooting, plus 27 team high. Got a couple steals. I mean, everybody got a couple steals against the Sacramento team tonight. Yeah, but it was nice to see him go 3 for 3, man. He shot a 3 last game and airballed, and that's the key for Jabari, like it is for Chris. I've said it numerous times. Jabari got to be able to knock down threes. Today, he did, but just like with Chris, it's going to take much longer to tell whether he's actually, like, improved at an NBA level than just this one preseason game.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, he got hurt. Wait to see his status moving forward, but he had to leave this game with an injury.
Yeah, hopefully he's all right. Reath played 12 minutes, 6 points, 2 for 4 from 3, 2 for 7 from the field. Had a couple steals as well, a couple boards. Doing Reath things. You had Rupert played 21 minutes. Not a good shooting night. 1 for 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. But he just makes plays as a passer and defender that make him intriguing to me. He had a couple steals, right? Like I said, everybody had a couple steals. Also 3 assists. He had, I believe, 3 assists last game, only 1 turnover. You can tell he's starting to read defenses. Hopefully the 3-point shot doesn't regress to kind of what we expected with him coming into the league, because he shot the 3-point ball well last season. It did regress a little bit over the year. So just where his 3-point shot, I do think it looks a little less stiff, a little smoother. We have to remember he's how old right now? Rupert? He's like barely 20 years old. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, he's 20 years old, turned 20 on May 31st, so he's still super young, still super raw. I do like kind of the control that he's playing with right now, some of the passes he made, some of the defensive plays as well.
Yeah, I like it seems like he's picking up on a lot of what Toumani's doing defensively, and he's, in the second half at least, was playing very similar. Had that one where he almost forced a turnover in the backcourt, where he knocked the inbounds pass away. But yeah, he's another one of those guys. I think minutes will do him wonder, and hopefully he gets some minutes this year, even on a deep team. But yeah, he's still learning the game, so I don't think there's anything you have to be worried about necessarily bad-wise that he can improve on, because he was the definition of a long-term project. And so, yeah, patience is definitely the key there.
Yep. Shout out to Connor Messing for becoming a starter-level member. Thank you, Connor. Welcome to the Uprising is what we call our members. At least I think that's what we called our members. We need to actually get a slogan for our members.
I mean, it is a cult, but
it is a cult. Yeah, but keep that a secret, okay? Don't tell anyone. Shout out to Connor. Become a channel member by clicking the join button down below. We'll answer questions here in a little bit once we finish rattling off players, and I actually think we might be done. I mean, Devontae Graham, I don't have much to say. Like, I think he's a cut.
Yeah.
Taze Moore played 4 minutes, didn't really do anything. Bryce McGowan's played 5 minutes, didn't really do anything. Minaya played 8 minutes, missed a 3. That was it. Like, typical Justin Minaya NBA shift right there. He shot the 3-ball well in Summer League, but still, man, I mean, don't really understand why we have this guy on a 2-way. And I believe we've mentioned everyone. You know, we talked a little bit about Ayton and Grant, man. Jeremy Grant had multiple times where he just didn't make any effort getting back on defense, and it bothers me. Ayton, his defense was noticeably worse than Clingan. Like, you could tell the difference between Ayton and Clingan defensively today. Some of Ayton's pick-and-roll defense was just awful. And listen, okay, fine, I'll give them a pass, I guess, because it's preseason and they're veterans. But, man, it's both those guys have defensive reputations that I believe is bigger than their actual defensive contributions.
For sure.
And you look at Jeremy, right, 60 minutes, no assists, no rebounds, no steals, which is a big statement considering the Blazers had 14 steals, didn't get a block. Like, just he came into this game over-dribbling again. Over-dribbling.
First play goes 1-on-3 and throws up some crap. Like,
yep.
So, why in preseason? Why? Like, I don't get that at all. But
I mean, why at all on a rebuilding team? And listen, he finished 3 for 6 from 3. He finished 3 for 6 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. The 2 threes he made were catch and shoot shots where he's playing off the ball. Mm-hmm. And this team, it seems like, is going to go into the season featuring a bunch of Jeremy Grant ISOs again. And it's like my biggest frustration with the offense is, man, we're way too stagnant. And Jeremy just, like, his transition defense isn't good. He doesn't really run the floor super hard. Like, he ran the floor harder when he was playing next to Josh Hart and Dame. He just feels like a little checked out outside of trying to score the ball, which kind of bugs me a little bit. You shared some things with him on the last post-game show about, you know, kind of his trade situation. I just wonder, like, man, how is he fully mentally checked in? And then just some of the plays, man, it's like, okay, you can't be lollygagging like that defensively in transition during the regular season, right? I'll try not to be hard on you right now, but games start mattering in 10 days, and it's not even necessarily about winning games, Eric. It's about setting a standard as a veteran for a young team. That is where I care more about that. So there's just, it's like first possession of the game featured Jeremy Grant dribbling like 8-9 times in a row. It's just too much dribbling from Jeremy Grant, too much isolation from Jeremy Grant.
Yeah. Well, it's baffling to me because, like you mentioned, he's become a really good three-point shooter in the NBA. I think he shot plus 40% both years he's been here. Like, those kick-out passes to open threes, he's really good at. Passes where there's a defender closing out on him hard, he takes one dribble into like a 15 to 18-foot shot. He's good at those as well. And he can hit those all day. And occasionally he can drive and get to the basket. He has shown the ability to draw fouls like we were hoping with Scoot. He has been efficient because of that, here in Portland at least. And so that is a skill set that's good for an NBA player. Totally don't think he's like horrible or anything, but like, yeah, it's like the exact type of player I don't think is good to mix with, not personality wise, but just like on court play style to mix with players that are trying to run a pass heavy or unselfish type offense. So hopefully that problem is solved sooner than later. I think at worst it'll be February before that's taken care of, but hopefully it's sooner than that. And I wish Jeremy the best. I always say this, like, he's the one guy who wanted to come to Portland and try to make it work with Dame when no one else really did. So like I'll always be grateful for him to that, but he just does not make sense on this team.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't make sense on this payroll either.
No,
I mean it's very clear what needs to happen going forward in these 2 preseason games. Trying not to overreact here, but these 2 preseason games made it even more clear to me. Okay, DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant are not the future of this team. Donovan Clingan at the starting center is the future of this team. I felt that way going into the preseason, and just seeing some stuff tonight like made me feel a little bit better, as much as one preseason game could. And maybe you hang on to Ayton for the entire season because you're ramping Clingan up, but I want Clingan to be the starting center next year. I want Deni Avdija to be the starting 4 with probably Toumani Camara as a starting 3, and you pick 2 of the 3 guards. Or you maybe bring one of the guards off the bench. Or maybe you start all 3 and bring Toumani off the bench. Like, I don't know how you work it out, but I think that team is going to play a better style of basketball. I think Jeremy Grant has places in the league where he fits. I think DeAndre Ayton has places in the league where he fits. But I don't think the way they're building this team and the way they're doing this rebuild, I don't think, A, they're a fit here from a timeline perspective. B, they're a fit here from a financial flexibility perspective. You're in a rebuild. You want financial flexibility to be able to accumulate assets, which the best rebuilds are teams that have done that. Look at OKC. And then from a stylistic point of play, it's, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot of mid-range stuff. The defense is a little overrated. Neither guy really makes plays for others. I'd rather have a guy like Avdija and a guy like Clingan in the front court, man. They defend well. They play hard. They do little things. They both pass.
Yep. Hellblazers, the member for 28-month message, #KlingKong, #COTF, center of the future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What's up, Hellblazers? Thanks for being a channel member. Yeah, Clingan's the starting center, man, long term, and it's just, you could tell. I mean, yes, he's a rookie playing his first NBA game, so he should be locked in and playing with high energy, but you could just tell he's like trying to always be in the right spot, trying to always make the right play, trying to make the right read. Like, he's locked in. And there's certain vets that the Blazers have had the previous few years where it's just like, man, if they're not scoring the ball, A, how are they contributing to the team actually winning games? And then B, man, like, do they just not care about, like, does Jeremy not care about rebounding? Does Norman Powell not care about defense? Like, it's just, I'm tired of questioning guys on this team because of that. So that's why I love the Avdija and Clingan pickups. That's why they are the future.
Well, he said last year he was going to start rebounding or make it an emphasis, and then that never happened.
How many rebounds a game did he get last year? Oh,
I doubt it was over 4.
It was 3.5 in 34 minutes a game. As an athletic 6'9" power forward, like, it should be impossible to only get 3.5 rebounds per game. Like, that's just crazy to me. So, listen, love the guy, right? He's the only guy that came here for Dame. Everything you said. He belongs on maybe the Lakers. He belongs on a different team. He's probably going to be here till the trade deadline. The Blazers are going to try and get as much value out of him as possible. There's just maybe an opportunity cost that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll take questions now. We've gone through all the players.
So Minnesota, I was just watching this video. Minnesota played New York tonight. And I guess DiVincenzo was talking all kinds of crap to New York.
Yep. I wonder what really happened there with him. Like, why is it personal between him and the Knicks? I don't really understand.
I don't know. Because you'd think, McHale does play a similar position to him, but, they're all boys and talked about playing together and stuff, so it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
But apparently what he was saying, he was telling Tibbs that's what happens when they let you run the show, meaning he thinks that maybe Thibodeau was the one who wanted to move on from him or something.
Well, I saw a tweet like that, and then I saw like responses saying like, no, it wasn't Tibbs, and like I saw somebody say Tibbs wasn't even there, so I don't know. People were saying it was Rick Brunson, which I think is like Jalen Brunson's father, I assume.
Former Blazer.
Yeah, so well, I'm a young head, right? So I don't remember the 1960s, but yeah, it's just fascinating stuff, man. I love a little drama in the preseason.
Yeah.
Love a little drama in the preseason. Also, just like looking around the NBA, Ryan Dunn was 2 for 6 from 3 in his first preseason game, 3 for 5 from 3 in the second preseason game. Tonight, last I checked, he's also 3 for 5 from 3. So that makes him 8 for 16 from 3. 50%. Nice. Identical to his free throw percentage last season. And listen, like, so Suns Valley podcast, my guy Gabe, right? They're probably live right now. He always like asks me opinions about players they get, and they get Ryan Dunn. It's like, dude, he just like can't shoot. He shot 20% from 3 last year at Virginia and 50% from the free throw line. Like, he just can't shoot. And I bet you he's live right now saying, Tori told me he can't shoot. Look at him shoot. Look at him shoot. Like, man, listen, I guess some guys just come into the league and it doesn't matter that they shot freaking 20% from the three-point line in college and played like a center and shot 50% from the free throw line. Like, they just magically find a shot in Phoenix. I don't know. So,
I mean, Thibault was plus 40% for a good chunk of last year and then fell off a cliff too and finished at like, what, 34% or something.
Dude, 34% based on Ryan Dunn's shooting last year would be phenomenal.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's hard to like make definitive statements off of 3 games, especially 3 preseason games. But if you're a Phoenix Suns fan and you see any sort of ability to shoot the ball, and the most positive thing, I think, because there was some concerns that he was going to, or has been, a Ben Simmons type player where he just refuses to shoot, and it was frustrating for coaches at Virginia. And one of the reasons why he fell to the second round was like, is this guy just lacking the confidence to even shoot the ball? So the fact that he is letting it fly and shooting that many attempts per game, I think, is a huge positive. Yeah. Haven't really been paying much attention to other teams preseason. I'll pay more attention like during the regular season to other teams. But yeah, I mean that'd be a great development for them. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I started second guessing Ryan Dunn. I had him as like a second round prospect, but his defense is phenomenal, and it's like, okay, we normally view like offensive prospects as high upside, right? But it's like, if that dude could just figure out how to shoot a 3-ball, he would be pretty easily, in my opinion, a top 10 player from this class. Like, that's upside in a way. Mm-hmm. And seeing him shoot the 3-ball is like, man, yeah, okay, if he's shooting anything close to this already, then he probably should have went much earlier. Yep.
I'm sure if Donovan Clingan ended up in Phoenix, he would be 8 for 16 from 3 as well right now.
Yeah, well, their team overall under Budenholzer has been very 3-heavy. So yep. I think that's just part of it, too, is just having the green light and having a coach that wants you to shoot whenever you're open, and that being okay to miss. Like you're not going to get benched just because you missed a 3 if you're taking the right shots. You're probably going to get benched if you pass on an open 3, right, under Budenholzer's system. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Phoenix does with, they still have a Kogi and those kind of players that haven't shot the 3-ball well in their career. So how they mix non-shooters in with their shooters they do have. Nurkic will be interesting to see. Plumlee doesn't shoot 3s, so when he's in the game, like, how does that look? So there's the Suns they still have a lot of talent. I'm wondering if they have a much better year than people are thinking.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Also, if you think the Blazers are going to have a much better year than what people think, you might as well go place Some money over on BetUS because look at this over-under win total that they have for your Portland Trail Blazers. 21.5 wins. If the Blazers played like they did tonight, they're probably at least a 30-win team, right? Minus 125 for over 21.5 wins. That means if you bet $125, you'd win $100. So pretty even odds for over 21.5 wins. We've had a lot of optimistic people in chat. Listen, if you're that confident, you can bet the over at BetUS, and you can also take advantage of the phenomenal promotion that they're offering, which is a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two deposits, up to $2,000 with promo code YouTube150. Eric, right now, are you taking the over for 21.5 wins for the Portland Trail Blazers?
I'm staying away from this, but if I had to bet, I'm probably taking the over, yeah.
I'm taking the over. I think they win. Before the season, I said like 24, 25 games. I'm still right there. 24, 25 games. And we will have our season predictions stream in a little over a week. Not tomorrow, but the following Monday, the 21st, will be our annual standings predictions and awards predictions. So you can come join us, chat. You guys get to vote in chat polls to set your standings predictions. It's like a 2.5 hour stream. So come join us for that stream. That should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to trying to predict the standings this year because I think it's pretty wide open in the West, and you could go a number of different ways, and it could make sense. I think it's going to be a crazy season in the NBA. Same thing for the East, man. You got some good teams over there in the Eastern Conference. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the stream. Any questions you guys have, we'll answer them for the rest of the stream. We'll probably go another 10, 15 minutes or so and then wrap things up. We'll be live again next Wednesday after the Blazers play Ratio Farm. Ratio Farm Ohm. I think that's how I heard it said. I think that's actually the correct pronunciation, Eric. And they have two probable first-round picks in next year's draft playing for them. So, yes, I know it's not as fun. It's not an NBA team, but it's two guys that you get to scout early. And those guys are Ben Serif and Noah Asengwe. I probably said his name wrong, but I said months ago Noah Asengwe is going to be this year's Tijon Salon for you. And that's not even based off watching Noah. That's based on his scouting write-up and his height and three-point shooting, and I think he's also French. So that's my early bold prediction. That is your draft crush for this year, Eric?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Have you watched any of him?
No, I have not yet.
Well,
other than I think I saw like out of his Gavoni or someone else post a little clip of him. That was it.
Do you have a prediction for my draft crush this year?
No, not yet.
And obviously Cooper Flag doesn't count.
Yeah.
If you find a guy that you think I like, you can proclaim him as my next draft crush, and I'll see if I like him, or maybe I'll just decide to hate him to spite you. No, I would never do that. But we'll see who this year's Jalen Tyson is for me.
All right, sounds good.
But I'm looking forward to our big boards this year, man. It's gonna be a loaded draft class, and looking forward to Wednesday's game, where you get a chance to see two guys. And Serif's starting to get a little bit of buzz right now, man. I don't know how high he could rise, but it's a great opportunity to watch those two guys. Because normally, we're not going to watch much international basketball. I guess you watch a little bit more than me. I watch a ton of college. We're going to get early on that scouting trail this season.
Yes. And
maybe early on that tankathon this season. So what's the rules for Tankathon this year, Eric? Should we wait at least 10 games? Should we let chat have say?
I think we should just do it every game.
Every single game. So what if we're 1-0 and in the playoffs after beating Golden State?
All right. Every game we're in the lottery.
Okay. Every game we're in the lottery, we're Tankathoning. It's going to be a year-long thing. Man, we haven't Tankathoned in a while. I think we did one like after the draft, just for fun in like August. But other than that, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Also, if you're a channel member, you can post Blazer tank emojis. So feel free to click that join button. All right, questions. Do we have questions in chat? What's the game Wednesday? 7 p.m. at home against Ratio Farm Ulm. Would you rather the Blazers be top 4 in the West or get a top 4 pick? They're like, one is impossible and one is very possible, so top 4 pick. Like I don't even see a path for them to be a top 4 team in the West. We're talking about a team whose over-under win total, as I said, is 21.5. They'd have to win probably 50 games to be top 4 in the West. Do we blow out the Kings because Chauncey wasn't coaching? Eric, that has nothing to do with this blowout, correct?
I mean, I don't think you could say that after one game.
Where the other team turns it over 26 times.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe once Chauncey gets fired, Bjorkgren will say, "Remember that preseason game when I led you guys to a really good record?"
Yeah, looks good on his resume. 1-0. 1-0. Adam says Deni will probably mess with our ticket-a-thon a bit, and I'm okay with it. They'll probably shut him down at some point if they're truly tanking. And if they trade Grant, trade Ayton, like I assume those guys will help us win games this year. Even though, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see the on-off splits for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, we'll be live again Wednesday, and then we'll be live Friday after the final preseason game, which will be the first game on Blazer Vision. So we'll get to talk about that. And then we'll be into the swing of things.
We have our you're in the GC draft or fantasy?
Oh yeah, is that tonight?
Yeah.
They made it tonight, huh?
Yeah. You got pick 13.
I got pick 13?
Yeah.
It's kind of a gross pick.
I'm pick 15. I almost had the last pick again after having that in football and our last fantasy.
It worked out for you in football because all the players at the top of the draft have been ass, and you got Saquon and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Why'd you even bring up fantasy football? I'm depressed.
Sorry, man.
I would start 3-0 just to end up 3-3.
Adam Smith's, none of the games have been on yet on any local channels for anybody. The first preseason game, or the last preseason game, is the first one that's supposed to be available. So no one will know how it works or if it works on any sort of streaming things other than broadcast TV until that last preseason game on Friday, I think it is.
Yep. It hasn't launched yet, so don't stress about it yet. Are you a fan of the 3 forward lineups? I like it as an option. And that's the thing with Deni, is he's a good enough ball handler that you can like use him offensively as a guard, and defensively he's a forward. But versatile enough to defend guards. I think he gives us a lot of defensive options. So I like him and Camara defensively together. They provide some switchability, but I would like a third good defensive forward to pair with them. And I don't think that's Jeremy Grant. Hopefully it's Cooper Flagg. That would be intriguing defensively. Cooper Flagg, even if it's Ace Bailey could be really good defensively. Like that type of prospect with Deni, with Toumani, and Clingan at the 5, I think that could be a elite defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan says, watch today's game on Blazer Vision. All in all, good experience. Didn't have to watch in real time. I don't understand.
Yeah, apparently Casey Holdahl was saying that it was on Blazer Vision or they did a test run, but they just showed the Kings thing. I don't think it was.
I could have done the same thing, like streaming in Discord. Like, what are we really testing there? I guess maybe testing the. Do they have an app? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, anything else, Eric?
No, I just appreciate everyone for watching and hope to see you back on Wednesday.
Yep, looking forward to that Wednesday stream. That should be fun. We'll talk about the prospects from Ratio Farm in that one, and we'll of course talk about the Portland Trail Blazers. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. The Blazers blow out the Kings. This was a impressive performance by your Portland Trail Blazers. They get their first preseason win against an NBA team since December of 2020. And of course, Chauncey wasn't here to see it. He is still winless against the NBA in the preseason. And he won't get an opportunity to fix that next game. It's not an NBA team. But I don't know. Maybe the Blazers can lose against a non-NBA team for Chauncey. I don't know. But, of course, final preseason game Friday, October 18th. The Blazers will take on the Jazz at home. So it's just home games. They don't go back out on the road for a while, actually. They start off, their first 3 games are at home. And those are, of course, against the Warriors, Pelicans twice in a row. And then they go on the road back to Sacramento, actually. So this was a preview of the Blazers game against the Kings on the 28th of October. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Make sure to follow our socials. Links are in the description box below. Make sure to join our Discord server so you can participate in giveaway nights, call-in nights, and other post-game events. The Discord server is right at the top of that description box below. We'll catch you live again on Wednesday. We look forward to that. And we're out of here. Shout out to BetUS. And until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.